This is our paranormal podcast because this is our paranormal community, and we want to support you here on RU Media Network. We are proud to be sponsored by the Haunted Hinsdale House in Hinsdale, New York. Here are your hosts, Brian Mersall and Shawn Gilmore.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to our paranormal podcast. I'm co-host Shawn Gilmore. Brian Mersall, how's it going, brother?
Good. How are you, Shawn?
I'm doing pretty good. Everybody probably notices this beautiful face that's between you and I.
Yes.
This is our guest. We had some IT issues, so we actually have our guest on the phone, Robert. I'm sorry if I say this. So is it Righi?
No, it's Righi. It's an Italian name.
Righi. Oh, I murdered that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay,
no,
so
don't worry about that. I've been murdered before, so it's okay.
So we had IT issues, so we have his beautiful face up here so everyone can see what he looks like as he talks to us, and we learn from him today. So just bear with us, guys. It's still going to be a lot of fun, and I don't really have a whole lot of house cleaning to do today. It seems like we have some investigations coming up that we're getting ready for. We have one coming up at the Monroe House in November. That's the biggest one I can think of. And what about you, Brian? Do you have any house cleaning today to do? I can talk.
No house cleaning. Just excited to talk to Robert.
So Robert, can you tell us about yourself for everybody who hasn't met you yet? Oh, Ken Allen says hi.
My friend Ken. Yes, the Wizard's Table.
Yes, exactly. What can you tell us about yourselves? What got you into the paranormal? Who is Robert Riggy?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Sorry about the issues, but you know what? Sometimes those pesky spirits just don't want to cooperate and do whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Anyhow, I am a psychic medium, and my first experience is when I was 4 years old, and it's just gotten stronger and stronger, and I'll be 67 in November. I first must tell our brothers and sisters who are listening to this that my spirituality is based upon my Roman Catholicism, which is very important to me. I don't want to convert anyone to anything, not at all. But for me personally, my Roman Catholicism is very, very important to me. I must also tell you that I'm gay, and I want to be very transparent. I want people to be comfortable in who I am and what I do. Okay. And so I always preface that of who I am and such like that, because I think it's very, very important. But going back to my first experiences when I was 4 years old, and it's just gotten stronger and stronger, like I said. But everyone has to realize that I was born in 1954. Okay. So in 54, so I was 58, in 1958, I had my first experience, and I woke up during the night. Of course, what time was it? 3 o'clock hour. Mm-hmm. Of course, at that age, I had no idea what it meant. But anyhow, I saw my first apparition, and of course, coming from Illinois, it was Abraham Lincoln. And I saw him in apparition, his full body apparition. And it didn't scare me. He smiled, and I smiled back. I remember waving at him and everything. And then before I know it, he had disappeared. I went to the bathroom. Then after that, I knocked on my parents' door, and my parents thought that I was sick, and I wasn't. I was just experiencing something, and I wanted to tell them about it and how a 4-year-old could tell them, you know? And so they were really, really surprised that I experienced that. So they told me I could crawl into bed with them, and so I did. And then the next day, being Italian and Spanish, that my mother, who was born in Spain, and my father, who was born in Italy, she called my Italian grandmother, my nonna. And so my mother took me over to my Nona's house. And then my Nona said, we need to go to her friend. And so, here I'm 4 years old, and I said, oh, whatever. And so anyhow, so we went, and this woman, she looked to me like she was 200 and some years old.
Wow.
And you know what I mean? She wasn't that old. But anyhow, in my eyes, she looked very, very old. And she put her hands on top of my head, and I could feel her energy enter into my body. I remember quivering, shaking. And then she could also feel my energy go through her body. And she smiled, and she gave me a big kiss. And she told me in Italian that I was very, very gifted in many, many ways. And then my Italian grandmother left, we left, and that was it. And again, my paranormal brothers and sisters during that time in 1958, one had to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
Prior to that, about 30, 40 years prior to that, our culture, our society, they were into seances, tipping tables, Ouija board, and all that stuff, right?
Right.
But then in the late 50s and the 60s, it really changed, culturally. There was a Vietnam War, there was the Civil Rights Movement, there were gay rights and all sorts of things. There was a Vietnam War, like I said, there was Vatican II. So culturally, our society was going through a change. And again, my mom always said not to say anything at school. And here I went to a Catholic school, right? And yeah. I remember in the classroom that I would be bothered by these spirits. I saw them out the window waving at me, children, adults, you name it. It was there. And it really bothered me. And so I began to start stuttering because I didn't know what to do. My grades started to fail. I would get D's and F's, and prior to that, they were A's and B's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was really, really difficult. And so that's why this very day that I mentor 15 children, and that started 8 years ago, because I know what children of the paranormal go through. It was horrendous for me. It really, really was. Because if I would have started talking about what I saw and experienced, I could have been taken away from my parents. I could have been put in a psychiatric hospital. I could have had ECTs. I could have just a bevy of things could have happened to me. And so I just stuffed everything. Yeah. And it took its toll on me emotionally. It really did. So when I have done these other podcasts that, and when parents heard of me through the grapevine and through word of mouth and everything about their children having the same experiences as I, and so they reached out to me. And I'm glad they did, because two of the children, they were 8 and 9, different parts of the United States. Both of them started to self-mutilate themselves because they didn't know what to do. They felt alone. Their parents didn't understand them. Their parents loved them, but they didn't understand.
Yeah.
There were other children who, and this really bothers me even greatly, that they attempted suicide.
Yeah.
And so, and at this very moment, my paranormal brothers and sisters, at this very moment, there are children of the paranormal who don't have a mentor, who are scared. And at this very moment, some of our paranormal children are thinking about suicide. And so it's very, very important to me to help these families. And so I have been. And I teach these children how to turn it on and off. And so I do that. And with these children that before COVID, we were meeting several times a year in different places. And a lot of these children's families are not rich. I'm not rich either. But anyhow, we would all collectively put our money together, and we would go to the homes and to the areas of which the families could not travel because of financial restraints and such. And so we made accommodations to go there and such. And so that was really neat. And so, and some of these abilities that these children have are just incredible. Oh my gosh. Some of them are psychics, yes. Some of them are empaths, yes. Some of them Some of them are mediums and such. And so they all bring this beautiful, wonderful spirit, innocent spirit, you know what I mean? And so I talked to the parents, and being a psychologist, because I have a master's degree in forensic psychology and clinical social work from the University of Florida. And so I always make sure that these children are not psychiatrically ill, and they're not. I've seen them in action. I've seen them. This one young girl, her name is Brianna, and she lived in Chicago, and her parents are very, very wealthy. They sent a car down for me because I lived in Peoria, Illinois, where I was born and raised. Mm-hmm. And so they sent a car down for me, and then I went back to their home up in Chicago, about 3.5 hours, 4 hours north of me. This young girl, Brianna, she was so talented in telekinesis. She could move things. And she also was a medium. And her parents didn't know what to do. They were ready to take her to a psychiatrist because they thought she was crazy, you know. But she's not crazy at all. So I went in one room and I asked her to move a specific thing, and she did right in front of my eyes, and also in the eyes of her parents. Wow. So they witnessed that firsthand. So you know,
that's amazing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. It's amazing that you get to help children like that. I mean, growing up at the time that you did, Catholic, and with the abilities, and also being gay. I mean, that's got to be really, really hard to really, dig within yourself, and that's a lot to admit within yourself, because that's against everything that they teach, right? And
right.
So,
now the Pope said many years ago, John Paul II said, it is okay to be gay, like it is okay to be straight.
Yeah.
But it is the sexual part of it. The Catholic Church, like most Christian churches, they're always hooked up on sex. They always are, and they always will be. You know what I mean? But I've come to terms with me being gay. I mean, here I'll be 67 in November. So I walked out of the closet when I was 18, 1,000 years ago, And by helping these children, I want them to come out, and any of our paranormal brothers and sisters who are younger or adults who are still in the paranormal closet, as I say, to come out into the light, because there are people like myself and Shawn and Bryan and probably millions of others in our field that would mentor them, that would help them, that would assist them,
Definitely. I mean, I grew up, I was brought up Jewish, and then I converted to Catholicism when I got married and had kids. And now I consider myself a spiritual Catholic. And
okay,
if that makes sense.
It does.
It probably doesn't make sense to the church, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Right.
But
so it does. Okay, so you're Jewish and you're Catholic. Oh my God, the guilt. You must be
I know.
Like I am, being Italian, being Spanish, and being Catholic.
Right?
Oh my God, the guilt is unbelievable.
Oh, tell me about it.
It is.
Tell me about it.
I have a lot of Jewish friends, and so we talk about and we laugh all the time about the guilt and everything like that. But my spirituality, like I said, is upon my Roman Catholicism, and I don't want anyone to be converted to anything.
No, that's what it's about, right? It's about getting people together and opening up spiritually, right? And helping these kids.
People think when I start talking about my spirituality, about Roman Catholicism, I talk about religion, but I'm not, though. I'm not. Spirituality and religion they're so different. They're so different. And some people think they're synonymous, but to me, they're not. Okay, so I am spiritual and not religious, if that makes sense. And it sounds like you are also spiritual and not religious. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so helping these children to find their way, and now these children are doing beautifully. And then just recently, someone heard me on another podcast. They reached out to me that these two young men, and they're deaf, okay, and they were telling their mother that they wanted to be exorcists and that they see things and stuff like that. So now I am mentoring these guys.
Wow.
And it's wonderful, And going back to people who are deaf, let me tell you that we talk about paranormal unity, and I believe in it at 100%. But there are some groups out there. One of them is called Silent Paranormal, and they're deaf.
I've heard of them.
They never get to be on any podcast, not at all. And they want to tell their story. You know what I mean?
No.
And so they sign, and so I sign. So when I talk to them, that that we do FaceTime and such like that, and oh my God, these groups are wonderful. They really are wonderful groups.
When you're back home.
They live like in a silent world, and the rest of our paranormal brothers and sisters don't reach out to them.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you're back home, let us know. We'll have you on. You can translate the sign language, and we'll have them on the show.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Oh, that would people would love that, because they have been turned down so many times.
Let's do it.
Because people won't understand them. Well, of course they don't. Signing is a different. Signing isn't a language in itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But these people are fantastic, and and talking about their journey of being deaf and being in the paranormal. One of them that I know very well, that she is a psychic medium, and so her story is so unique to her, like each of our stories are. But, especially when one has to sign, you know what I mean? So it's, but anyhow, I'd be more than happy to do that. So I mentor these children. Okay. I also, like I said, I have a master's degree in forensic psychology and clinical social work from the University of Florida. So I'm a gator, right? Mm-hmm. So I combine the psychic part of me and the mediumship part of me and the psychology, education, and experience together. And it works beautifully together. It really, really does, Yeah. And because of my experience, that when I do a residential, I like to go in there cold, as they say, right? To do a walkthrough. And more times than not, in my experience, after all these 50 plus years, is that there's going to be some emotional thing going on inside the family. Some traumatic life change. It could be like a death, a suicide. It could be a divorce. It could be a change in job. It could be many, many things, right? And so when that happens, it could be like a renovation of the home, right? And so it's like a perfect storm that really awakens. It really awakens the spirits, in these homes and such like that. Definitely. So I combine the psychology and the psychic part of me and the mediumship part of me.
Definitely. When I grew up, I always say when I grew up, it was the perfect storm, because my family, we had our hardships, and we had just, we moved into a place that was very haunted. And then we move in there with our family stuff, and boom, next thing we know, things are going haywire everywhere. We lived in a condo that was an apartment building. We had the whole building going active. It was crazy. And real quick, before continuing, Erin Kasmarsic says hi to Ken before she says hi to Brian. And then she doesn't even say hi to me. And then I comment, cough, cough, you're forgetting somebody. And then she comments, go Gators. Are we avoiding someone, Erin? Whatever. She made
no.
Hey, my two favorite paranormal peeps, Shawn and Bryan. I know, I'm just giving her a hard time. I've known Erin since like middle school, since like high school. I don't know, it's a really, really long time. So I have to give her a hard time, especially on my podcast. So
understandable. You know what? I like to have fun when I do these podcasts. Yeah. Some of it is very serious, yes. But on the other hand, we need to laugh so too. Especially now, my God, this world's upside down. You know what I mean?
It really is.
And so we need to laugh. We need to take the masks off. We need to see our faces, and we need to smile at each other. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's very important to us. But going back to these children and that I'm helping and assisting, during COVID, we couldn't meet.
Yeah.
And so then we would like do FaceTime and stuff like that. But prior to that, we would meet 2 and 3, 4 times a year. And so I taught them how to turn it on and off. Their gifts and their abilities, right?
Yeah.
And how I did it was that I showed them a book. And these children, of course, they go to school, so they know when the teacher says it's time to reading or even math, that you open the book, right?
Yeah.
And when the class is over, what do? You close the book. So I would hand these children any type of book, and I would said, when you're ready for the spirit world, then you open the book, and you're open to that. And say to the spirit, I'm opening the book to you. And when you're done, then you tell them, I'm closing the book to you. And it took time, of course. It took time. But now these children know how to turn it on and off. And I always tell them that to use their talents and gifts and abilities wisely, never get into the dark magic, and stuff like that, So, so stay very, very positive. And the older children always took care of the younger children when we went to different places. Like I would take them to different state hospitals and those types of things. And we would sit around the campfire and talk about one's abilities and this kid's stories and let them vent. Yeah. It's very important to have these children and these adolescents or anyone to tell their story.
Definitely. You need that release, right?
That's very, very important.
Real quick, I want to stop you because you said that you help them turn it off.
Yes.
Me, I'm an empath, and my abilities actually go a little bit past that, but I haven't really worked on that. So I just keep the label empath. Keeps it simple for me. I can't turn that off. How do you turn that off? And I have other people that ask me, how do you turn it off? And I just say, me personally, I say I can't turn it off. I just shield the crap out of myself. So,
well, and that is fine, because I cover myself with white light.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't go to Walmart because there's so many damn psychic vampires there. You know what I mean? I just don't go. But anyhow, I cover myself with white light. I used to do the book thing, but for the children, they can visually, they see a book. I give them, they have books in school because when the teacher says it's time to read or time for math, they open the book. And so it's easier for them. It took time because the pesky spirits didn't want to leave them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in time, I would say probably after 6-7 months now, that the children know how to turn it on and turn it off. And so it takes time. It really, really does. And a person has to be a person must be visual, okay, to see the book. And I'm very visual. And so right now I see the book open because I'm speaking to you, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of this, I will close the book. Okay. But it does take time. It does. And what I have said to the adults about turning on and off their abilities is to go into a quiet place. Go into a quiet place, no phones, nothing like that, and just meditate. Just get into themselves. You know what I mean? Yeah. I believe in interior prayer. And Mother Teresa, I met her 3 different times, and that's another story. But one time she said, Robert, you need to shut your mouth and just listen to your spirit. Let me tell you, and it works. It takes time, but it does really work, And so do I cover myself with white light? Yes, I do. And that protects me also,
Yeah.
So I help these children. And so I, like right now I'm in Pacifica, California. I'll be going to the Winchester Mansion Thursday night. So I'm looking forward to that, doing an all-nighter with 5 different people. So I'm looking forward to that. But when it comes to going to those specific places, I don't expect anything. I don't walk in with you know what I mean? I just walk in. If things happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. Okay? I tell our brothers and sisters that spirits are not like circus animals. They don't come out on a cue, on a clue. You know what I mean? So they don't, And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, that doesn't mean there's no spirits there. They just don't want to come out and play, you know?
Yeah.
You know? And so when I see these damn TV shows, oh my God, every show you see, oh, did you hear that? And oh my God, please, I'm ready to put hot pokers in my eyes. Really? It just, it just drives me nuts. So I don't watch them anymore. But anyhow, and I also tell my brothers and sisters in the field is that when we do a residential that we must listen to the people who are experiencing things in their home. Yeah. We must also validate what they're experiencing is correct because it is their experience, not ours. Not at all. Just because a team goes in there and they don't get a damn thing, no EVPs or anything, right? That doesn't mean that there's no spirits there.
Right.
So I encourage my paranormal brothers and sisters to always validate what the family is telling you. And again, they're seeing it from their own eyes. They're telling their own experience, Well,
and Shawn
and Bryan, what I also usually do, especially when I do events, I bring an onion. And an onion has what?
Layers.
Yeah. It has many layers. So I tell everyone that we have to get down through all these layers and we have to get to the core of the situation. That is most important to do that. And so a lot of people, God bless these paranormal investigators that go in with all this equipment, which drives me nuts. It really, really does. And, so I suggest to people that when they do a residential, just don't go in like a gangster. You know what I mean? Take this stuff in quietly, appropriately, explain to the family, this is what we're going to use, why we use it and such like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't understand those machines and that equipment. Sure. I don't use anything. I don't because of my gifts and talents. But I understand that, that the paranormal groups use that stuff. But again, we must be very, very aware of the family that we are assisting. And also, what I have suggested is that there will be two different groups in one team. One do residential and one do buildings, vacant buildings. Okay? Because the group who does the residential, they really have to be a people person. Right. They have to be caring, and they have to take the time to talk to the family to see what's going on, because again, it's their experience and not ours, And so a lot of our brothers and sisters agree with me and some of them don't, and that's fine, and I respect that. But for me personally, that's what I have always believed in,
For me, I've always done the private investigations, but I also go to the historical buildings because the historical buildings, one, it helps support them, and two, I take what I learned from the historical buildings and I bring it to the private residence or the private business that I'm investigating.
So that's a good idea.
So I like to do both. It's all about learning. It's about taking, and then what's the difference between me and the person's house I'm going to? 100% honesty, other than I'm an empath, nothing. Right? Those people can be empaths and not even know it. I didn't know I was an empath until I started having friends that were psychics, and they showed me that I was an empath, and so that there's no big difference other than I go and I put myself in the situation where I'm trying to gain communication with spirit. So that's the difference between me and them, is that I go and I try and do this, and it's a thing that I do and they don't. And plus, you don't really want to do it in your own home, right? So it's that's kind of the way that I look at it. I take what I learned from the location and I bring it along with me, because when you go to location, there's all different history. They have their hot spots and everything, but really, any time that you go and try and gain communication with spirit, you don't really know who you're going to get communication with. It could be a residential spirit that's from that building or that home, or it could be a passerby, right? It could be someone or it could have been like, maybe I stopped at Walmart, or maybe I stopped at, McDonald's, and they, for some reason, knew that what I was going to do. I feel like they kind of know. That's but so I don't know. Maybe who knows who you're really reaching out to. So always keep an open mind,
Yeah. Oh, it is, and so we have to, sometimes, paranormal unity, that sometimes we have to agree to disagree politely and respectfully. You know what I mean? We do. And so we all have our gifts and abilities. There is no expert. When I watch these damn shows and these people just go on and on and on, and then under their name, they'll say expert. I thought, oh my God, I'm ready to put hot pokers in my eyes, like I said, because in our field, in the paranormal field, that it is not an absolute science. It's not. No. It's not. Because you can get 100 people go into a building that have all sorts of gifts and abilities and talents, right? They will come out with 100 different opinions. And that is fine. You know what I mean? Nobody's right all the time and nobody's wrong all the time. You know what I mean? So we need to respect each other. And that's one thing that is missing in our field is the being civil to each other. I always tell groups to keep the ego at the door. You're there for a specific reason.
Correct.
And if you're not there to help this family or go into a building that maybe the business needs assistance and help, then you're doing it for the wrong reason, so get out of it. You're not there to get your jollies off on, giving a class A, EVP and stuff like that. We're there to help. We're there to assist these people, or these people would have never contacted us,
It's true. Definitely true.
And so those are some things that I do. And also that I volunteer at a hospice with children in their homes. And I'm with these children hours before they leave this earthly dimension for the heavenly dimension. And I see angels, and I'll tell you about my psychic part of me and my mediumship, but I see angels also. And I have 2 angels that assist me that have been with me way before I was born, and that's another story in itself. And so the families know who I am and what I do. And I'm very transparent, you know what I mean? So I want the families to be comfortable with me. I want anyone to be comfortable with me. That's just who I am. And I remember Lucas, when I went to be with him, and the parents knew I was coming, but they never said anything to Lucas. And when I walked through the door and then walked to Lucas's bedroom, I opened the door with his parents, of course. The parents are always an eye shot and earshot of what I'm doing, right? And so Lucas said, "What took you so long?" So his spirit knew that I was coming, or someone was coming.
Wow.
But just to be with these children, and I play the guitar, and so I bring the guitar with me, and I bring stuffed animals and coloring books and things like that. And a lot of times what I do also is that I shave my head bald. I always shave my eyebrows also, because a lot of these children have undergone chemotherapy. And they don't, they have no hair. And so I want them to be comfortable with me. And a lot of times when I walk in there, they'll just like rub my head and everything. And, the children smile. And I always tell the child that I am here to walk with you part of the way. And this beautiful angel will be coming and taking you to a place where there is no more hospitals, no more needles, no more pain. You can go swimming. You can go play soccer, football. You can run. You can play on the monkey bars and those types of things. And you can swing and those types of things. And so that's for another story, another time also. But these children are such a blessing to me. And Shawn, I don't know if I had sent you a picture that I was holding this little boy. I don't know if I sent you that picture, if not, of me holding this little boy.
Do you want me to share it?
Reed. But anyhow, Reed's in heaven now. And so I help these families.
Do you want me to share the photo?
The mom and dad with a grieving process and everything. And so to date, I have been with 20 some children and helped them to cross over.
Do you want me to share the photo?
I'm sorry?
You want me to share the photo?
You can if you want to, yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. And so it's me holding this little boy. His name is Reed. And they were going to have a fundraiser for him and his family because the family is poor. And so I heard of this fundraiser event. And then somebody contacted me and said, Robert, why don't you see if they will allow you to join the event and you can do readings and such. And when I do public readings, I'm very, very careful. I don't bring out the dirt. You know what I mean? I just don't. They're usually just general readings and such, and that and then later on, if they want to meet with me personally, okay, and then we'll get into more details. You know what I mean? Because confidentiality is very, very, very important to me.
Yeah.
And so being with this little boy, and at first they only sold, I don't know, maybe 100 tickets or something. But and it's not all about me at all. It's not. I'm not greater or less than anyone else. But my spirit said, you have to help this little boy and his family. Anyhow, before you know it, 300 tickets were sold.
Wow.
And in a 6-hour period, we raised over $25,000 for this family.
That's awesome. That is so incredible.
You know,
Wow.
and
That is amazing.
Then just weeks later, I was with Reed when he left this earthly dimension for the heavenly dimension. What a wonderful blessing this little boy has been in my life. And all the children, like Lucas and Anna and Marie and Matthew and Derek, you know, a lot of these children that I've been with, my paranormal brothers and sisters, that their families are not able to have another child. And so here's the parents seeing their only child they can have naturally die in front of their eyes. The pain, you know, the pain that the parents experience, the sorrow. It's just incredible. Somebody asked me, do I cry? Of course I cry, for God's sakes, you know? And they said, oh, well, Robert, don't you think that you need to be strong for the family? I said, no, I don't. Okay. I feel their pain. I feel their sorrow. I feel their anger. I feel their frustration. And I always tell the family, I said, listen, if you're mad at God, be mad at God. It is okay. God understands. If you want to cuss God out, do it. Go ahead and do it. You know? And so, like I said, that I'm also there for the parents. So, and we can go into that at another also with the children and like with Reed and everything.
Yeah.
And so I do that. Also, I have been involved in 2 exorcisms that have been sanctioned by the Catholic Archdiocese of Chicago. And that, to both of those, quite an experience. It really, really is. And so that's for another time also. And how they heard of me was I had done another podcast, and I can say Kevin's first name. Kevin, he lived like 4 hours south and west of where I live in Peoria, Illinois. And he heard me on a podcast, and he was down in St. Louis at a ball game. This was now 5 years ago. And the couple behind him were talking about me. They had heard me on a podcast, and they were talking. Kevin turns around and asks them if they had my telephone number. And I give my telephone number. Everybody has it in the world, right? So if they need help or assistance, I'm there to help them. And so anyhow, so Kevin called me a couple weeks later, and of course, what time was it when he called me? 3 o'clock in the morning, and we know what that time is, you know. And but Kevin was truly possessed, and there are certain criteria that the Catholic Church goes by to determine. And anyhow, he fit them all. But anyhow, that's for another time also, because it's very lengthy. And let me tell you that the priest who did the exorcist, Father Michael. I don't know if you heard of Father Michael, but he is from Loyola Medical Center and University in Maywood, Illinois. He's a Jesuit. He is the same priest that did the exorcism on the house, the demon house that Zach Bagans had bought in Indiana. Okay. And so I got to meet Father Michael and assisted him with 5 other priests in seminary. And so that's another time. But Vivian's story of her exorcism was quite different because she was psychiatrically ill. And the reason why she was psychiatrically ill was because she was raised in a satanic home. And she was ritually raped at a very, very young age. She was impregnated when she was 9 and at 11. And the parents made her have an abortion at that young age. Can you imagine? That's horrible. But anyhow, so as they say that her personality split into 5 different personalities, right? So what I had to do with other psychiatrists, and they were priests up in Loyola Medical Center, is that we had to integrate 4 of the personalities, right? We had to integrate those. But the one personality is the one that was possessed. And so we left that one alone. And that one is the one that that Father Michael performed the exorcism on. So that's another story in itself too. Okay.
No, let's hear more.
Go ahead.
Let's hear more. Tell us more about this. Like how do you go when somebody, because one thing that you have to consider when you're investigating the paranormal, especially in private residences, is the psychiatric health of the clients.
Right.
So how would you, what's the proper way to approach somebody who is schizophrenic or who has multiple personality disorders?
Right.
How do you do that?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Just how do you go about something like that? And I'd love to hear more about this.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. When the family reaches out to me, and usually my paranormal brothers and sisters, these people have been through hell already by different groups coming in saying that they're going to help and do this and do that, and they make things a lot worse. And you know how that is, Shawn, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And definitely. So what I do is that I go in there and I walk through, and so I will feel things and I will sense things. Okay. And so then I sit down and talk with the family, and there's usually going to be, like I said, there's usually going to be some traumatic life change or situation that has happened. Okay. Mm-hmm. Everyone is some way psychiatrically ill to one degree or to another, right?
Yeah.
Some people are going to be narcissists. Some people are going to be manic depressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we all have our own little quirks, right?
Truth.
But when a person begins to talk with me, and I always tell them, let me tell your story. Let me pick it up. Let me be able to do that, right? And so I will. And so then I tell them what I'm sensing and feeling and that type of thing, right? But when a person begins to change in a way, if that makes sense to you, that I can tell that they're psychiatrically ill, that they're schizophrenic, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of times they will be very flighty in things. They will start talking on one thing, and 2 seconds later they're doing something else. You know what I mean? And so some of these people are psychiatrically ill, and you really have to be in tune to that. And being a forensic psychologist, and being a criminal profiler, I've seen the best of humanity and the worst of humanity, right?
Okay.
And so a lot of times what I suggest to them, if I get this feeling that there's something psychiatrically not correct, I will ask them to go to their doctor and ask for a psychological workup, okay? And more times than not, they will do so. Okay. And a lot of times they will come back and they will say, this is what is going on with me. You know what I mean? Some of them will be manic depressive. Some others will have other things, And so one has to be very, very in tune to that. Okay?
Right.
Because there is such a fine line between possession and being psychiatrically ill. I know this one time, this family had called me, and this poor girl, she was no more possessed than what I am. And maybe I'm possessive sometimes, I don't know. But anyhow, she was, and she would just talk normal, right? And then all at once, she would start barking like a dog. She would start howling. She would use the F-bomb constantly and everything. She would go, oh my God, up and down constantly, right? So, Shawn, what diagnosis do you think she had?
Would she be schizophrenic doing something like that?
No, she wasn't schizophrenic, but she had Tourette's syndrome.
Oh, okay.
Tourette. Because Tourette will mimic like someone is possessed. You know what I mean?
Well, when someone that has Tourette's, I mean, I know people who have Tourette's and they have their tics, and it's like when they do it, they just like kind of like tick and they just like blurt or do something uncontrollably.
Uh-huh.
So, and like sometimes it could just be like blinking over and over again.
Right. And it can, and that's very, very true. It can be blinking. It could be those types of things. But a lot of times, if someone has never been on medication for it, I mean, and this girl was never on medication, that she howled like a dog and she did all sorts of things. And her family truly believed that she was possessed, because when she went into this, and they call it a Tourette's seizure. Years ago, they would call it a fit, which I hate that word. You know what I mean? And but anyhow, but she had this strength, unbelievable strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she could do all sorts of things. She could contort her body and stuff like that. You know. And so now with medication, that a lot of that has been taken away because of the medication. And sometimes you will just see maybe a person blinking their eyes a lot, or maybe they will tap their fingers on a table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and so for years, people thought that people were possessed, but really they had Tourette's syndrome. You know, and so one has to be very, very in tune to that, and don't jump to conclusions. You know what I mean? I mean, not you specifically. I'm talking to our paranormal brothers and sisters. You know.
Yeah.
That talk about, I mean, if you see somebody who is doing all those things that we just, that I was just saying, is that you need to ask them, have you thought about possibly that your daughter or your son has Tourette's? Have you taken them to the doctor? Have you taken them to a child psychologist or to a psychiatrist? You know what I mean? So go from there,
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have been horribly taken to different Protestant churches. I mean, God bless my Protestant brothers and sisters, but a lot of times they do deliverances on people that just make things worse because they don't look at the aspects of the person could be psychiatrically ill. They think everything is demon possession. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so one must be very, very careful because it could make their situation a lot worse. I know that a friend of mine had brought this lady to me, and she had gone to be delivered, several deliverances and everything, and she was no more possessed than the man in the moon. What her problem was that she was a severe alcoholic, and she would go into this state of euphoria, and she would just go off the chain, as they say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was never possessed, and so when I met her, she was not. And so I said, you need to go into treatment. You need to go see your doctor. I'll go with you. I went to her physician with her, and I said, this is what people are saying, and I told them who I was, and I brought my credentials and such. And I said, and I said, Ruby was the first time I can say her first name. I said that Ruby is an alcoholic. She's an alcoholic, and she needs help. She needs to go into treatment. Instead of going back and forth to these ministers. I mean, they were taking her to one minister after another and after another, and that was it. That wasn't helping the situation at all. Not at all. And now Ruby has been sober now for 10 years.
Nice.
And she's doing wonderfully. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely. And with Kevin, Kevin is doing wonderfully now, but at any given time, he could possibly be repossessed. And that's very true. And Vivian is the same way.
Definitely.
Both stories are totally different and things why in the situations, but someone who has been exorcised must be very, very, very careful very careful that they could fall back into that at any given time. So one must be very, very careful. So again, so then I come from like the psychic part of me and the mediumship part of me that I combine with psychology, and it works wonderfully. It really does.
Nice.
Yeah.
I bet it does, especially with the help. Here we have a question from the chat here. Amber Simona. She's asking what signs does someone show who is possessed?
Okay, Kevin. Let's talk to Kevin for a moment, okay? Kevin called me at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's not the time to go out for an ice cream. So we know what that hour is, right? And my phone is always on. Anyhow, so he calls me, and he said he got my number from the people that I told you about, right? Mm-hmm. Anyhow, he goes, Robert, there's something wrong with me. There's something. No, hold on. He's talking. Uh-oh. Anyhow, they said, and Kevin goes, there's something not right. And so let me move for a minute. I'm outside. And so anyhow, so I was talking to Kevin. Kevin began to howl and do all sorts of things, right? And so Kevin was asking me to help and to pray with him. So I said the prayer to St. Michael the Archangel. And all at once, the most guttural voice came from him, okay? My room, I have candles in my room at home. I have, my bedroom looks like a cathedral, 50-some light candles, right? And so anyhow, so he began to speak in a different language, and being Catholic and Spanish and Italian, I know Latin. And so I understood what he was saying. Okay. Kevin is a good old boy. He would not know Latin for anything, right? And so then Kevin, I kept saying Kevin's name, to bring him back and to know that I'm there to help him, right? And so anyhow, and so I said to the demon, and I said, Kevin, there is a spirit, there's an unclean spirit inside of you. And I said, and how he got in there was because, and this is what I was sent, and this is what my angels were telling me, how he got possessed was through a Ouija board. He would be drunk and he would be high, and he would be calling these demons to come inside of him because he wanted to experience that, right? Which is the wrong thing to do. I know a lot of my brothers and sisters are practitioners of the Ouija board, and God bless them. But for me personally, I don't mess with it. You know what I mean? I just don't, So Kevin then comes back, and he's just talking to me normally and everything like that. And so all at once, I smell this horrible stench in my room. It's a stench of death, sulfur, all sorts of things, horrendous things, dead animals, right?
Yeah.
And so then I say the prayer to St. Michael again, and the demon that was inside of him came out and said, Robert, if you don't leave this bitch alone, I will destroy him and I will destroy you. And so the right side of me, when it tingles, that's good, right? But when the left side does, I'm really experiencing evil, right? So my left side was really tingling. And again, I say the prayer to St. Michael the Archangel. He begins to howl. The demon begins to howl and everything like that. And he said, Robert, I want you to believe who I am. And this is how I'm going to do it, he said. Let me tell you, my brothers and sisters in the paranormal field, the demon told me things that only I would know. Only I would know, not Kevin. Kevin had no idea who I was, except that he reached out to me, right? And so I'm adopted, okay? Mm-hmm. And I usually don't talk about that on a podcast, okay? So he would not know that, right? Mm-hmm. And so the demon told me other things about myself. And that is one of the criteria that the Catholic Church has, that if the person can tell you secrets of the priest or another person that he has never met before, that is one of the criteria. Okay. And so he did tell me things. He did tell me things that only I would know. Okay. So that's one of the criteria. Okay. And so I knew from that point that he was really, really possessed. Okay. I always go in with an open mind, at first, you know what I mean? But there's something called echolalia. Do you know what that is?
What is it?
I don't.
Okay. Echolalia. We have two sets of vocal cords. One of them is dormant, and the other one we're using tonight, right? Okay. The demon can use both vocal cords at the same time. And it is incredible when that happens, because like I'm talking to you this very moment, and then all at once another voice will be coming out at almost the same time that I'm talking. You know what I mean? And that's called echolalia. Okay. Tibetan monks have learned how to do that when they chant. So if you ever hear a Tibetan monk and they're chanting,
that's why it sounds like that.
It's called echolalia. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know why it sounded like that. Okay, cool.
Okay. And so Kevin had 4 out of the 5. And the other one, but knowing secrets of someone else that has never talked to him before, that's the number 1. Okay. Another one is moving things, moving objects and those types of things, right? Mm-hmm. And Kevin, or the demon, and I'm not going to say the demon's name because that to me is a calling card. And don't be surprised if the phone goes dead or something happens, because every time I talk about the exorcism of Kevin and Vivian, things happen. Okay. And so I'm not going to say the demon's name, but anyhow, the demon said, "I'm going to move something in your room to really show you who I am in my power, because your God has no power over me whatsoever." And the demon also said, "Robert, you have these angels, but let me tell you, angels are a lie that your church has made up to make everyone feel good." You know what I mean? And so anyhow, so the demon says, "I'm going to do something to make you even know that I'm even greater than your God." Of course, I said, "Satan, get behind me," and those types of things, right? And my angels were helping me also. Anyhow, and so in my room, my candles are lit. There's no air. Do you know what I mean? There's no air conditioning on, there was no need to. The windows were closed. It was comfortable in there. But let me tell you, one by one, the candles started to go out for no reason, And so what I was experiencing was truly evil. Wow. Kevin wanted me to come there immediately. Well, he lived like 4 hours away from me, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to drive, and it's very difficult to get to where his little town is. There's no interstates, right? So you have to take these back roads. I'm not going to do it by myself. And I always tell my paranormal brothers and sisters, please, if you get a call at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, please don't go by yourself. Please don't go by yourself. It's not safe. No. It's not, And so that's how I knew. And then my phone went dead. My phone drained fast. It died. So I plugged it in. I tried to get back to Kevin. Kevin was calling me, but I never heard. The phone never rang. Okay. I tried to, connect with him. After 2 hours, we connected again. And so that was the situation with Kevin. And then the next day, that every Catholic diocese in the country has a senior priest or a monsignor that knows about the paranormal, okay? And that you call the diocese, like I called Peoria Diocese, where I live, and I told them what was going on. I need to speak to a senior priest or to a monsignor about this. And so they contacted him, and then he gave me a call back. I told him what was going on. And anyhow, that we met up, and he said, yes, let's go out to the house. And so we did. We left at 8 o'clock in the morning. And let me tell you, Father had a brand new car, and that damn car, because of the evil one, did not want us to go there. Everything happened. We had a flat tire and all sorts of things. The car overheated, and it should have never happened that way. You know what I mean? But anyhow, we got to Kevin, and Kevin was in bad shape, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. He really, really was. And so I'm glad that he reached out to us. And there's more to that story too that I could go into more detail, and maybe we can do that another time. But Kevin is doing wonderfully today, and everything is filmed. Everything that when we went to Kevin's home, everything was filmed. Everything was was videotaped. Everything, right? He had to sign papers giving us permission, to videotape, and so just to have this proof that the church needed, right?
Yeah.
And anyhow, and that really protects Kevin as well as protecting Monsignor and myself. And let me tell you that what we experienced inside of that home, it was incredible. The stench, the sulfur, it was unbelievable. It really, really was, And Kevin, I had never seen anything like that before. And it really opened up my eyes even greater to the realm of somebody being possessed. And anyhow, Kevin is doing beautifully. And next year, I get to have, Father and I get to have we both get the videotape back. It's been about 5 years now or so. Anyhow, and so we get that videotape back. It's never been shown before, because what they did was that they sent this to the Vatican, and so they used this tape and many other tapes to teach young seminarians to become exorcists. Okay? And Kevin remembers some things of his exorcism and other things he doesn't remember. And he's never been on air with me to talk about it. He wants to, but I am not forcing him at all. When he's ready, and then we will come and do a podcast together. And again, there are certain things he remembers and certain things he doesn't. Okay?
Yeah.
But at this moment, he's married. He has a full-time job. He goes to a Bible church. He's doing wonderfully. He really is. But let me tell you, exorcism is not for the faint of heart. It's not. To be in a room and experience the things I have experienced. Because the demon just doesn't mess with someone physically. It's spiritually, emotionally, and also that the demon messes with one's dreams. Just not only Kevin's dreams, but the dreams of myself, and of Father Michael, and 3 other psychiatrists. There were 3 other priests there. One of them was a regular medical doctor. One was a psychiatrist, and there was also a psychologist there also. Okay, and like I said, Kevin had to sign forms for this. He had to agree to this, right? When we took him to Loyola Medical Center, he went through a battery of psychological tests to make sure that he wasn't psychiatrically ill, right? And anyhow, and it turned out that he wasn't psychiatrically ill. He did have issues with alcoholism and drug addiction, and that we knew already. And so then again, he had to agree to this exorcism. So hold on.
Uh-oh.
Hold on for a second. I'll get these dogs. Hold on. Come here. Get down. Here. Stop. Hold on.
And Shawn, I think it's time for the segment.
Yeah, it is.
Are you ready? You run in?
Are you ready?
I've been ready.
About half an hour after you guys left. No. I'm sorry, I'm back.
All right. Well, you know what? You're just in time.
Okay.
All right, Robert. This is the.
You got to be able to hear Brian. So I'm going to move the phone and move my speaker here. Okay. Let me know if you not hear Brian.
Robert, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Yes.
All right.
Awesome. Well, we usually have an intro for this section, but we'll just get right into it. This is the one segment of our podcast called the Into the Abyss segment. It's where we ask our guests 13 fast-fire questions, and it is your responsibility to answer them as quickly and as thoroughly as possible. Okay, my friend?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I'll give you number 1 and number 13 as a reference point, but we'll just get right into it if that's okay with you.
Oh, yes, please do.
All right, Robert, let's do this. Number 1. Please elaborate on the power of having no expectations going into a paranormal investigation.
What I do when I go into any residential, I don't have expectations at all. It's their experience and not mine. Okay. If I experience something, if I feel something, and so I don't go in thinking of anything. I just want to help these people, and it's their experience and not mine.
Why do you think trauma stirs up spirits?
Trauma stirs up spirits because of all that energy. All that energy of frustration, anger, and those types of things. So all that energy builds up inside of you, and they have to release that energy. And if the energy is not released, then it becomes a perfect storm.
What kind of effect does psychology have on the paranormal?
What I do, and what separates me, I'm not any greater or less than anyone else. Just the fact that I combine my psychology education and experience along being a psychic medium, and it works beautifully together.
What are a few steps to becoming more articulate about the paranormal like yourself?
Now say that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, just the way you speak. I mean, you're able to articulate your thoughts and feelings of the paranormal so well. What are some steps that people can take to be as articulate as you?
It comes through experience, and it also comes through the passion that one has about the paranormal. It has nothing to do with ego. It has to do with our passion of why we're in the field and why we're in it for, so are we in it for ego, to boost our ego? No, or we shouldn't be, at least. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to be compassionate. You have to also be passionate, compassion and passionate about the paranormal field and why you're in it.
Why do you think hands on someone's head is so impactful and emotional?
For me, when I was 4 years old, oh my goodness gracious, and having a bruja, which is Italian and Spanish for witch, when she touched me, to feel that energy. And we're social animals, so we need that touch. It's very, very important. And during COVID, we were not able to do that, to hug each other, and we need hugs. We need that personal touch.
What is one of the most unique youth paranormal talents that you've stumbled across?
I think that you said youth, or did you use the word unique?
Well, because you work with the youth that have paranormal talents, what do you think one of the most unique talents of the youth that you work with are?
It would have to be the children who have the ability to move things, telekinesis.
Yeah.
That is always fascinating to me because I can't move a thing. You know what I mean? And so that's always fascinating to me. And these children have different abilities. Some are empaths and those types of things, right? And you can have two empaths in the same room, and they will feel totally different things.
Why is Paranormal 101 so important to your heart?
Paranormal 101 because of our experience, my experience and my personal journey. I want to assist others in their journey to come out of the paranormal closet, to embrace their gifts and their talents, and to understand them and to use them wisely and appropriately.
How does religion impact one's paranormal experience?
Not religion, spirituality. Totally different.
Okay.
My spirituality is based on my Roman Catholicism. And so the spirituality of somebody can be a Satanist. You know what I mean? So spirituality is very, very important.
Was there a standout year in your 50 years of your paranormal adventure?
It would have to be the exorcism of Kevin and Vivian, and also working with the children of the paranormal.
Now, I lost my dog Ellie about a month ago, She was 6 years old, young. She just contracted inflammatory bowel disease, and there was she just didn't respond to the medication. And boy, she was in 4 years of an abusive puppy mill, and we only had her for 2 years. And my fiance and I, because we'd wake up with her, we would take her to work with us, and we'd go to sleep with her. So she was with us every hour of the day. Sometimes we find it really, really hard, and we struggle with why, and we struggle with the proof of the afterlife. Like with our case, and many others who lack the faith, or not that we lack the faith, but that are always searching for that proof of afterlife. I mean, how do you what kind of things do you say to elaborate on the validity of the afterlife?
We are spiritual beings in a physical body, and being human being, or being any animal, a dog or cat or a horse, right? To me personally, each creature from God has a spirit, has a soul, and we're going to go someplace. We're going to go someplace. Do I believe that all animals go to heaven? Of course I do. Of course I do. Very much so. And so the afterlife, and I believe also in past life regression, right? And so for human beings, until we learn the lesson in life, we will have to keep coming back, not physically, but spiritually.
Okay. Thank you. Why is the youth so important to the paranormal field?
The youth is very important because after I'm gone, you're gone, Shawn's gone, okay? There is a new generation of folks, young kids coming up, right? And so we have to mentor them. And it's very, very important that they find good mentors that are not doing it for their own ego. Do you know what I mean? And so it's very, very important for us to mentor these children, to encourage the children and their parents to embrace. They may not understand it. Their parents may not understand it. The child may not understand it at that time, but they will. So it's very, very important that we mentor and teach these children and teach these parents that their gifts and abilities, as far as my experience, that they come from God. So it's very, very important, because the next generation of the paranormal folks coming up is going to be very, very important, because people like me who lived in the paranormal closet for so many years, thank God these children now have mentors. These young adults, older adults, they have mentors now that will reach out and help them. It's very important.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Gilmore wallet over there, but Shawn is going to buy your favorite haunted location, and he wants you to be there full time, teaching, like as a paranormal school, teaching Paranormal 101 to the youth and to people that want to learn about the paranormal. What would your school be called, and what haunted location would you like Shawn to buy you?
Shawn would have to have a lot of money to buy me the catacombs in Rome, Italy.
Oh, sorry.
And what would that school be called?
It would be called the Catacombs Academy.
Ooh, simple yet elegant. I like it.
Like the Gilmore wallet. I mean,
Gilmore wallet is willing to buy that.
It's gonna be after those catacombs.
Well, I did win the lottery a couple more times.
Maximilian won 10.
When I say a couple more times, I've never won it. So.
Oh, okay. And the catacombs, I've been to Italy because of being Italian, and so going to Europe, going to Italy, going to Spain. My father was born in Italy, my mom was born in Spain. So growing up, we went to Europe a lot, and just to go into the catacombs, it's just incredible. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and what I sensed and what I felt being there by myself. It doesn't have to be at night. By God, there's spirits around us 24/7. And these people who think, they have to wait till nighttime, that's bull crap. Mm-hmm. The spirit world is around us constantly. But the catacombs and what I experienced there is just incredible. And also when I go into the Colosseum, and that was one of my first lives, And so I feel very at home going into the Coliseum. And that's another story in itself.
Oh, I'd love to. Oh man, there's so much history overseas that I'd love to experience that. I'd love to experience it even in Japan. I would need an interpreter.
Right.
But I would love to go to areas in like Japan and the Catacombs Provegula. Oh my gosh, it's the castles in Ireland, the pyramids in Egypt. Wow, there's just so much.
It is, and you should go. I mean, you should go. I mean, because when I was in school, that we had the opportunity, like in January, it was for like that we could stay at school, we could go home, or we could like go on a trip, whatever. And so what I did with 50 other students that we went to Israel, and we also went to Egypt, and to ride a camel next to the pyramids, that was incredible. And to go inside the pyramids also, that was incredible. And the things that one experiences, it's just off the chain. It really, really is. Somebody said I should write a book. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
And for the past 50 plus years of my paranormal experience, and I have kept a journal, and I have 50 years of books, of tablets. And I always, like tonight, when this is finished, I will put down that how long I talked to you, how I felt before, how I felt during, and how I felt afterward.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep a record of everything that I do.
Then you should turn those into books, because you have some amazing stories.
Well, thank you. But you know what? Really, the bottom line is that we're all on a journey, and my journey is my journey. Your journey is your journey. Some journeys may be very interesting to other people, but really our journey is a personal journey. And for me to tell my journey, to help our brothers and sisters who may be going on the same journey, so we can help them. And it's not that I will tell them what to do, because in my field of being a therapist and also being a criminal profiler with Ted Bundy, that's another story too, that I always give everyone two options. You can take this path or that path. But again, it is your journey and not mine. When I was a private counselor, my clients would say, well, what should I do? And I said, oh, no. You're not going to put me in that situation. Here are some options. Option A, do this. Option B, do that. But it is up to you, not me. It's your life. It's not my life, And so within the paranormal field, when I'm mentoring someone, that I will give them options. I want them to explore those options. And again, I always say that it's your journey and not mine. I'm there to assist you and to help you. Mm-hmm. And whatever decision you make, it's your decision. It's not mine.
Okay. I can do it.
So, anyhow. So now people know who I am and what I do. And going back to Ted Bundy, when I was in 1980, I graduated from the University of Florida. I started in 1973, in the summer of 73, when I graduated from high school. And so I took 2 years extra of anatomy and physiology because I wanted to know more about the body and such like that. And but in 1980, I had talked to the department head of psychology and asked them about writing Ted Bundy and what I wanted to do. And so he said, go for it. And so I wrote a letter to Ted Bundy. I wrote a letter to his lawyer and to the state warden up in Rayford, which is just right north of Gainesville, where I was at school. And 2 weeks later, I got a personal hand letter from Ted Bundy. And also I heard one from the state and from Ted's lawyer, and agreeing for a 90-minute session with 4 other psychologists and myself to come to Rayford and to sit. And we went, And there were 3 female psychologists. There was another male psychologist and myself. We sat in the same room. There were no bars. There were no shields, nothing. He was shackled, of course, and there were guards around him, security and everything.
Yeah.
But to be in the same room with a serial killer was incredible. And what I experienced was different than what the other psychologists experienced. And so that's another story in itself, too, you know? And so I still have that letter today. I have letters from Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, the BTK person from Wichita, Kansas. And so I'm fascinated with the criminal mind. I really, really am. Scott Peterson, who killed his wife Lacey and their unborn child Hunter. And so I write to those folks. Of course, that Jeffrey Dahmer is dead, but I do have a couple letters from him. And but again, the criminal mind fascinates me. It really, really does. That's what I got into the field of forensic psychology, because it is just so interesting to me. And when I got into the field, of course, we knew of DNA, but we did not know how to test for DNA. It didn't come really until like 81, 82, but it was faulty at best. It really was. A lot of people were convicted wrongly by DNA in the early days, and it was truly, truly not correct. That a lot of people sat in prison for a long time and they were innocent, and they were saying they were innocent. And by the grace of God, now it's in the last 15, 20 years that lawyers have helped these men and women both, because DNA has gotten more specific now.
Yeah. So with being involved in that, have you ever used your psychic abilities to help on a case?
Yes, I have. And the director, let me go way back, that when I first graduated from the University of Florida, my first job was in Orlando, and that was before Universal Studios was there. So that's how old I am. And so from there, then I was transferred down to South Beach, Miami area. Mm-hmm. And so I went to the director. The director called me and said, Robert, you have more education and more experience within forensics than what he did, right? So he handed me a yellow tablet and he said, I want you to write the protocol of what we're going to do. Because his degree was it was a bachelor's degree in criminology. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I wrote just reams and reams of paper of the things that we need to do and such like that. And even to this day, there are 2 chapters in a book for people who are coming into the field. Okay, we were not policemen back then. We were not policemen back then at all. Nobody carried guns, anything like that. And so basically becoming a criminal profiler, what we do is that we become the victim. We become the victim. We have to find out where the victim ate, and restaurants, schooling, friends, those types of things. Because more times than not, it is going to be a family member or it is going to be an acquaintance. Yeah. Okay, so we become that person. Have I used my psychic and mediumship abilities? Yes, but I had to be very, very quiet about it. And so the director understood what I did, right? And but I had to be very careful. I could never write anything down legally in documentation like, oh, this is what I sensed and felt today. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I kept that very, very under wraps. But let me tell you, I saw the best of humanity and the worst of humanity. When you get a call at 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and you go to a dumpster and you don't know if you're looking at a baby or you're looking at a rag doll. Oh my God. I can imagine. And so it does take its toll. And somebody said, Robert, how do I deal with that? And how I deal with it, my brothers and sisters who are listening to this, is that I believe in interior prayer. And again, that's my own spirituality. I have to separate myself, right? And so what I do, I go into interior prayer where I get in touch with my spirit all the time. All the time. And that refreshes me. Or I will go to the ocean is right there, right? My condo was here. And then there was a sidewalk, and then there was 101, and then there was the ocean. And I lived on the 6th floor, right? And so I could just open up the screen doors, whatever, and hear the ocean and hear the waves and everything, right? And that was very soothing. Very, very soothing.
I bet. Here, Sky Ray wants to know,
Oh, she's a friend of mine. Hi, Sky. Hi, honey.
Tell us how you felt with Ted Bundy on the paranormal side of it. And then she says pure evil, and she has a devil emoji.
Yes, and I think that she has heard me on another podcast that I was talking about Ted Bundy. And when he walked into the room, the air changed. I could feel it. The other folks didn't, because we discussed that later, right?
Yeah.
And but the air changed completely. It got heavier. When he looked at me, I was looking in the eyes of evil. His eyes got so dark and so black. There was nothing behind his eyes, nothing but death, nothing but hatred. He would begin to sweat when he was talking to me, but the other psychologist, that did not happen.
Wow.
And so the female psychologist, let me tell you that the female psychologist, one of them wore a very, very tight sweater. She was very, very bodacious, if you want to use that term, right? Anyhow, and so she was busty, that term. Anyhow, so she wore a very tight sweater. The other one wore a nice work suit and very professional looking, right?
Yeah.
And then the other female psychologist, she wore gym clothes, okay? Because we wanted to see of his attraction towards that for different women, right? And he responded differently to all of them. And myself, back in the 1980s, what did people wear in South Florida? It was like Miami Vice, right? And so we wore khakis, we wore pastel and crap like that, right? So I was in khaki shorts, it was a light pink shirt and such like that. And but anyhow, he reacted differently to those ladies. And let me tell you, two of the psychologists today, because of that interview with Ted Bundy, they left the field. They left, and both of them got into assisting women who were being trafficked and such like that. Both of them now are Protestant ministers and doing wonderfully. They're doing wonderfully.
Sky Ray says he knew. Sky Ray says he knew you had God's light in you. Gives me goosebumps when he talks about this experience. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, when I went into that room, did I expect? I didn't know what to expect. You always expect the unexpected, right? So you do. I did not go in there with any preconceived notion of what was going to happen and not happen. I wanted it to just flow the way it was supposed to flow.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that when Ted Bundy talked to me, and I remember him saying one time, he said, "I know what you're doing and I know who you are." One time he was looking at the psychologist that was wearing the very tight sweater, and he looked at her and said, and winked at her. And he always winked at the women, always stuck his tongue out, wagged his tongue at them. I mean, he was just an ass. He really was. And so anyhow, he said, "You know what? I could get a knife right now and I could cut that sweater right off of you. And I would tear your underclothes off and I would cut your nipples off."
Whoa.
And so these young ladies knew. So we all knew not to respond to any crap like that.
Yeah.
Let him just bury himself even more, as they say, right? And so then he went to the other psychologist, female psychologist, who was wearing the very nice work suit, work clothing. And he said to her, "Do you know what, honey? You and I could have been in private practice," because he did have a degree in psychology. And I asked him about that first. I said, "Why did you go to school to become a psychologist?" He goes, "Because I wanted to learn how to manipulate women more." Yeah. And he was a great manipulator. He was a narcissist from hell, too.
Wow. Karma Wild asks, "Do you believe he could have been possessed by a demon?"
Oh my God, yes. If I would go into the whole story, it would take too long, but maybe we can do this another time, Shawn and Bryan, if you want to. But anyhow, what he got into the different thing I'll just say different things, okay? And his mentor, and well, let me tell you, he said, because I asked him, I said, where did you learn how to dissect so well? And he said, well, he looked at me and he called me all these names. He hated me because I was gay too. Oh, and he picked that up in a heartbeat. He really, really did. He hated gay people, and he hated assertive women. Oh my God, he hated assertive women completely. And I'll say that every woman that he killed, except for one, looked like his mother. And that's a whole nother story, because his mother is also another family member too. And we can go into that, because all this happened to him as a child. It spiraled him into the abyss. It really, really did.
Yeah.
And his mentor, learning how to dissect animals as well as human beings, and I'm going to tell you his name, but just think about a person who was way before Ted Bundy that dissected people. Okay. And anyhow, so that's kind of like a hook for another story, you know what I mean? But yeah, he had a very, very dark side. Do I believe he was possessed? Yes, I do. I truly believe that he was possessed. I was also given the privilege of, I had written to him and also to the warden and to his lawyer that I wanted to be one of the 42 people that sat in to see him being executed. And so I was there for that also, you know?
Wow.
And so these experiences with Ted Bundy, and like I said, I could speak for 2 hours just on that.
I could listen to it too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I can sit here and listen to this. This is completely fascinating. And Karma Wild, she has another question. His eyes were dead, but did you see a bright light behind him?
No. Oh no. No. There was no redeeming factor at all with
Not
him.
at all? Okay.
No, there wasn't. No. And just being in that same area or that same room, no. And that changed me for a long time.
Oh, I could only imagine meeting someone like that. I mean, you go and you meet people like that, and it's got to be crazy. It's got to be real crazy. I mean, and nowadays, I mean, there's still people out there like that now today. They just aren't known yet. And now there's this big case going on now with the girl who went missing, and the boyfriend disappeared, is now disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
so that's all. Hold on for a second. You know, Lynn, earlier I tried to stop him. I really did.
They did this while we were gone?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Anyhow, my friend is just getting her dogs in.
no, that's okay.
It's yeah.
It's quite all right.
Go ahead, Dakota. Come on.
No problem.
Okay.
Always done.
Okay. So.
Well, I mean, we really could. We could really. Sky Ray says Robert knows a lot about things that were never released to public. We need to do a full show on it. And you know what? I am completely game on it.
Okay. Yeah, and so I come from the paranormal side with Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
That has never been, it's not written anywhere at all. And that's one thing. One of the stipulations that we had was that we could not record and we could not write anything down. Okay. So, but let me tell you, but the minute I got back home, that I wrote down everything. I wrote down what time it started, how I felt, and such like that. Okay. Also that I also took mental notes of how I was feeling during that time, and also what was happening to the other psychologists and other things, you know, and so all those, I have those today, you know, and like I said, there are stuff that he told me, and do I believe him? Yes, I do, because it all makes sense. It all makes sense of what he did and why he did it. Come on, Lucy, come on.
Did he call a demon to him?
Okay. Hold on. Sorry about that, everyone.
Did he like?
You can wait for her.
Oh, it's okay.
You don't need to be interrupting me.
Oh, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. No, they understand. No, they love dogs.
Yeah, we do. We love dogs.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, I said we do. We love dogs.
I know.
No
but
worries at
anyhow,
all.
So there
So-
are, and so I come from, like I said, I come from the paranormal side with Ted Bundy, and so he did certain things. But like I said, I could tell you right now, but it needs to go in a chronological order, because then it really makes sense then of why he did it and stuff like that.
Right.
But there was no redeeming bone in his body. Somebody asked me, did I believe, where do I believe he went? I truly believe that he is in the lowest part of hell. I truly do.
Can I ask you a question about that real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
I've had this theory because of my own personal experiences and because you look around the world and you wonder, how can things like this happen to good people?
Right.
Is this space?
You know what? That good things happen to bad. I mean, yeah, good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to good people. You know what I mean? They just do.
Yeah, they do.
So
is this like a heaven or a hell? Like, are we living in the heaven or hell right now?
I think that we're making our own hell. I think that life is hell as it is, right?
Yeah.
It is. We struggle all the time, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, financially, you name it, we struggle, right? But at times we make our lives even more hell. Let me tell you, in my experience, my friend, that we can be our own best friend, but who hates us the most? We do. We hate ourselves more than any other person can loathe us at times.
Yeah.
We hate ourselves. And that's horrible. That's horrible to have such hate. There are so many of our brothers and sisters that need to love themselves, love the little child inside of them who has been hurt, who has been raped, who has been sodomized, who has been having all this emotional trauma as children. They need to embrace that child, start loving that child. And one of the hardest things for us to do, my paranormal brothers and sisters, is that it is difficult for us to forgive ourselves. It is. We can forgive everybody else at times, right?
Yeah.
But to forgive ourselves, it's difficult at best. But we must forgive ourselves.
For sure.
It's like, to me, it's like a penny. There's two sides to a penny, okay? One side is love. The other side is forgiveness. The other side, forgiveness, is just not for other people. And love is just not for other people. We must love ourselves. We must forgive ourselves for the things that we have done and the things that we have allowed people to do to us. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have allowed people to come into our lives because we think we can heal them, because we think we can take care of them. We think that we can change them. Oh my God.
Right.
No, my paranormal brothers and sisters. No, we cannot change someone if someone doesn't want to change.
True.
We can't.
Mm.
And what happens is that we become so damn frustrated that we begin to allow people that we begin to second guess ourselves. And when we let some son of a bitch second guess that when they start beating us down like a dog, right? And so we begin to second guess ourselves. When that happens, we lose who we are. We do. We lose who Robert is. We lose who Brian is. We lose who Shawn is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we allow a lot of times we allow the dark side to come into our lives. We do. We at times we think we're Annie Sullivan's. Annie Sullivan is the one who helped Helen Keller, right? So there's a syndrome called Annie Sullivan syndrome. And I remember when I graduated also with my degree in forensic psychology as well as clinical social work. And the professor said, there's going to be some of you who think that you're going to go out and save the world. And you're going to burn out fast. because you think you can save the world. You see, he said that's bullshit. You cannot save the world. You can help people maintain where they are, and by the grace of God, maybe you can build them up a bit. You know what I mean? But this thing of saving the world, it's impossible. And Mother Teresa said, by changing the world, you don't have to do anything monumental, but a smile. A smile can change the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our paranormal brothers and sisters who are suffering from traumatic abuse as children, as young adults, and such like that, that we have to take care of ourselves. We have to clear all that baggage that is around us, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when people ask me for a reading, and all of us, I see this baggage around them. This baggage has so much dirt and moss around them. And that is an indication to me psychically that they have stuffed all this hate, all this hurt and frustration down deep inside of them. And let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, in my experience, is that will rear its ugly head at any given moment, and it will travel with you till the day that you die. So you have to come to some closure with all the crap, with the ugly and the worst things that ever happened to you. You need to have some closure with that. Okay? It's not easy because you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so many people just stuff it. But as I said, we are spiritual beings in physical body. And about the body is that the body is weak. Very, very weak. The spirit is strong, but the body is weak. And the body can just take so much until a person becomes ill, physically ill. Stomach problems, colon, those types of things, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to take care of that baggage around us. And oh my God, and also, there are so many people that I see on the back burner. It's time to get yourselves off the back burner, put yourself to the front, and think about yourself. It is not vain to think about yourself. It's not. You have to love yourself so you can love someone else. So get off the back burner, start loving yourself. You can love someone else then, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
And now you know who I am and what I do.
It's amazing. And we're going to have you on again soon.
Okay. That's fine. I appreciate that
When are you
so
going to be
much.
home?
And I have other things within the paranormal field that we can get into another time.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so my experience is my experience and my journey is my journey. But again, we're all here to assist each other and to help each other. And always remember that it's their journey and not ours. And sometimes, my paranormal brothers and sisters, we just need to close our mouths and just listen. Listen to our paranormal brothers and sisters. Listen to folks who are not even in the field. If they need assistance, just listen to them. Just listen to them, okay? It's very, very important. And when I see someone on the street, if I have an extra buck, I give it to them. Somebody will say, oh, well, they're going to use it for drugs. But you know what? My spirit tells me to give them $1 or $2 or whatever I have to give, right? And then whatever they do with it, it is up to them and their creator, not me. Not me at all. Yeah. A lot of times because right now I'm in Pacifica, California, and just a couple of days ago, I was in San Francisco with a missionary charity, and I had volunteered with them January 1st until the third week in May. I was on an Indian reservation in a homeless shelter volunteering there. And but anyhow, and so the sisters said, would you help us? Because the streets of San Francisco, there are thousands and thousands of our brothers and sisters and their children living on the streets of San Francisco. It's like going into a third world. It is. It's unbelievable. So we make these many, many sandwiches and we take coloring books and stuffed animals and water and such like that to our brothers and sisters. And somebody said, aren't you afraid of the COVID? I said, no. I said, I have been tested over 78 times. I never had the vaccination. I will never get it. and my test always comes back negative. And I hug our brothers and sisters who are on the street because they need a hug. They will come and ask me, Robert, can I hug you? Or the little kids will come up and I ask their parents, can I give them a hug? And they say, yes, because we're human beings. We need that human touch. We need that human touch. I'm not saying nobody should be vaccinated. I mean, if they do, God bless them, you know, and so they can. But for me personally, and the reason why is because a couple of weeks ago, I went in for the test, and the doctor said, why don't we take a test to see if you are naturally immune from the COVID? And so I did this. Oh, it's very expensive. It's like $900 to do this test. And I said, I don't have that. My insurance won't pay for it. And I said, I don't have that type of money to do that. So he goes, don't worry about it. He picked it up for me because he wanted to see. Anyhow, several days later, he called me back in. And by the grace of God, I have a natural immunity. And he said, Robert, there's millions of people that are out there that have a natural immunity from it. And I'm just one of those people that do, because in the early onset of COVID, I was traveling back and forth from East Coast to the West Coast and in between, right? And I was volunteering on an Indian reservation in Mexico, Navajo. And here I was with all these people not wearing a mask or anything like that, right? If anyone should have the COVID, it should be me. Mm-hmm. Really, literally. And I don't. I don't by the grace of God.
Well.
You know? So, but again, if somebody wants to get vaccinated, God bless them. I don't say not to get vaccinated, but for me personally, because the doctor told me if I got vaccinated, my immune system would go down in a heartbeat.
Really?
And so, so he told me to stay away. So I'm not getting the vaccination. But anyhow, now you know what I do. And like I said, I volunteer all over the country with our brothers and sisters, and a lot of our loved ones who are passed. And there's another story of my friend Michelle, who lives in Ohio, and her son is a walking angel on this earth this very moment. And so there's angels around us all the time. They're disguised as being a lot of times homeless, a lot of times as children living on the streets. Okay? And so I know that, and I sense that, and I feel them. And so when I see someone who's putting their hand out, or maybe just sitting down, and it's a very hot day and they're thirsty, I go in and get them something to drink, you know, or I just sit there and I just talk to them because I acknowledge who they are. And by acknowledging who they are, we are acknowledging the universe, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm not an angel. I fall short of the glory of God, or whatever you want to say, every day of my life. I am not greater or less than anyone else. I am who I am. I was created to serve our paranormal brothers and sisters, those who need assistance, and our non-paranormal brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? And so I am here. I truly believe that I was created to serve. And so that's what I'm doing, you know? And the thing, and Shawn, I think that I sent you a picture of me in front of Window.
You
Window
did.
Rock, Arizona.
You did. I could pull that up too if you'd like.
Oh, that's fine if you want to.
I would love to. I
My
lived in
brothers and sisters
Arizona.
who are listening to this, that part of Arizona and Window Rock is one of the most sacred and holy places within the Navajo Nation. They don't like to be called Navajo because it was given to them by Hispanics from Mexico 1,000 years ago, whenever, and the American government just picked it up. But loosely, it means thieves. Okay, they want to be called Dene, D-I-N-E, with a little accent mark over the E, and so in their language, they want to be called Dene. They hate the name Navajo, but for me, just to put D-I-N-E, people would have no idea. You know what I mean? But anyhow, so I got to meet two shamans, and wonderful. One of them was Dene, the other one was Hopi, and that is a very sacred place to the Hopi people also. And so when I was there 6-7 months ago, and so they took me, and that park also has a great memorial to the Dene code talkers or Navajo code talkers during World War II. And so that was wonderful being there. So they asked me if I wanted to go up behind the window rock, and to step inside. And so I did. And I was with both of them, one on each side of me. They said, close your eyes and open your mind. And I did so. Let me tell you, I thought I was there for hours, but I was only there for minutes, right? But everything was like a slideshow. Everything I experienced, I mean, it was like the ancient times, and they always talk about the ancient traditions and such like that, right? And
Yeah.
it was, I was seeing everything. I was experiencing everything. It was truly an awesome experience. And then later that day, I also went into a sweat lodge.
Oh, lucky.
For hours and hours, and that was incredible. To even get into, even get in tune with my spirit even more.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need, my brothers and sisters. If you get anything out of this podcast, please put down the cell phones, put away the computer, turn off the TV, turn off the radio, and get in tune with your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Just be quiet, listen to your spirit, meditate. I'm not saying that you have to do this for hours, and it does take time. It is a learning process to do it, because everything is technical in our world, right? Everything is. But we just need that lone time with ourselves to connect with who Shawn is, with who Bryan is, with Robert is, who Sky is, and everyone else out there. And when we begin to tune into ourselves, our lives become more manageable.
Yeah.
So
I know our time's coming up, and I don't know. I don't know how much more beautiful we could leave it right there, but
I'm right with
because
you on that, man.
Because I mean, Robert, when I listen to you, like specifically, it's just, that's what it's all about. I mean, not only the paranormal adventures that we're all on, but just like our lives in general, figuring out self-awareness, who we are, what kind of positive impact we want to make on others, and it's just that's what I'm all about, and I just relate so much to that. So I just, I appreciate your time and all of your knowledge, but just like I alluded to earlier, the way that you're able to articulate, it will. I would say it's beautiful, but you used a word throughout the night. It was, I don't know if it started with an I. You were just like the way that you would describe something. Maybe that would be phenomenal or like amazing, but you used like a certain word that I picked up on throughout the night.
I tell people that I am who I am. And for all of us, that we're here on a journey, and it's our own personal journey. Some of us will be on this emotional roller coaster all the time. But let me tell you, my brothers and sisters who are listening to this, it's time to get off this emotional roller coaster. It really is. Life's too short. Okay, so please get off this emotional roller coaster. Find someone who will assist you on your journey. It's not going to be easy, because there are some things that everyone has to face. The good, the bad, and the ugly, and the ugliest, right? So sometimes we need to face that with someone by our side, okay? Just to listen to us. And so please, my paranormal brothers and sisters, if you need assistance, I'll give my telephone number out, like I said. And if you need my assistance, if you just want to talk or have any questions, and again, I don't charge for anything. I don't. My gifts and talents and my abilities come from God, and I use them wisely and appropriately. Do I need to make a buck now and then? Of course I do. Okay? But when people will say to me, Robert, that we have come to you because we have gone to other people, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth is what? Well, I need $300. You know what I mean? And I tell my brothers and sisters who have reached out to me, I said, when that happens, I said, granted, people have to make a buck, but a buck, right? But the first thing that comes out of their mouths, hang up on them. Really, it's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so somebody says, how much you charge? And I said, if you want to send me something, that's fine. But if you want to pray for me and pray for our other brothers and sisters, a prayer is even better.
Wow.
Amen, brother. That is amazing. That is so incredibly amazing. In the field that that we're in and the world that we live in, nothing's more valuable than our time, and that's something that we never give back, or we get back. And
Right.
you give so much of your time, and that's just amazing that you do that for all of us.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I do, because in my past lives, which again, that's another story in itself, because in my other past lives, I lived a life of debauchery and only thought of myself. And I learned, and we all have a lesson to learn in life. So for each past life, that we go from one to another to another. And if we don't learn the lesson in life, and then we keep coming back, not physically but spiritually, if that makes sense, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But by the grace of God, I know what my lesson in life is. I love myself more today, not in a vain way, not in a narcissistic way at all. I love Robert for who I am.
Yes.
Love myself more today than I did yesterday. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's just the fact that it's true. I love who I am. I do. And at one time I loathed myself. And like I said earlier, that we can be our own best friend, but we can be our own worst enemy also. Nobody can hurt us more but ourselves. So I love myself. And my paranormal brothers and sisters, just think about it. Think about loving yourself. Because in loving yourself, you can truly, 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 you can love someone else,
Yeah.
And, and also that, and I don't want to get real religious, but, Jesus said in the Bible that we're supposed to love our enemies, right? Anyhow, Jesus never used the word like. He never used the word like. He said love them. Love and like are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I do love people. I may not agree with how their lifestyle is or whatever. You know what I mean? People don't agree with my lifestyle, and God bless them. I don't hate them for it. You know what I mean? But it's just the fact that, that this is like an agape love. If you know what the Greek word agape is, please look it up and read about it. And it's a special love that we have for our brothers and sisters. And we may never know them, okay? But still, we are brothers and sisters in the universe. We're all tied to the universe in one way or to another, okay?
Yeah.
So we need to love ourselves. We need to take care of each other. And now you know who I am and what I do.
That's amazing. And now that we know who you are and what you do, we need to have you on again very soon. We need to hear so much more, and we need to learn so much more from you. I mean, within to understand the paranormal, and we need to also understand why spirit is the way spirit is, right? And you're definitely seem like the type of person that can help us understand why certain spirits are the way that they are,
right.
After they pass. You seem like the type of person that can help us understand a lot more. And you seem like the type of person that has some stories that we would love to hear. We need to do a show just on do like a serial killer segment.
Right.
We need to do it.
I know, like people, and so I always have this caveat that when I talk about Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer and BTK and the Son of Sam, and when I talk about those folks, those people, those some of their animals, basically, right? Is that I'm not glorifying what they did, but their story needs to be told, and their victim stories need to be told specifically. So I'm not glorifying anyone, except that I want the victims to have a voice.
Our media sure does glorify a lot of that, doesn't it, though?
Yeah, very much so. And let me tell you that when I have talked about Ted Bundy before, and like I said earlier, is that a lot of times people will, I have not heard this on podcasts, but people will chime in and comment and say that they hear women screaming.
No.
You know, and also someone asked me about these women that were murdered and dissected and decapitated by Ted Bundy. Did they ever reach out to me? And yes, some of them have. Okay. And my question to them was, when you saw these other women being murdered, heinously murdered by Ted Bundy, did you want to help them? And they answered yes, but they couldn't. But what they did was they were there to take their sister to heaven. They were there accompanying them to heaven.
Wow.
After they died. And again, when I talk about the serial killers, again, I'm not glorifying what they did, but it's just the fact that a lot of times the phone will go dead. Sometimes a lot of things happen, you know. Again, Ted Bundy, when I talk about him, he gets really off on that, and you know, he does. And he wants all of us to always remember what he did, but he doesn't want the victims remembered. You know?
He wouldn't be anybody if it weren't for his victims.
I'm sorry?
He would be a nobody if it weren't for his victims.
Right. And
That's
also, I must
pathetic.
tell you that there's a connection of one of his victims that lived on my road when I was growing up in Illinois.
Oh, wow.
I remember her because I was in grade school. I was a little kid when she was in high school. And back in those days, people hitchhiked all over. You know, they did. It was just a thing to do. Kids went to San Francisco. They went to Pacific Northwest and those type of things. I mean, people hitchhiked all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this young girl, after she graduated from high school, she decided to go to the Pacific Northwest because she heard of Seattle area and Portland and how beautiful it was and everything like that, right? Anyhow, that's how she ran into Ted Bundy. And now there's also a connection with the Green River serial killer also. And what Ted Bundy and his role that he had with that. People will be surprised. People will be surprised with a lot of things that I will say about Ted Bundy and why he did the things that he did. And I'm not justifying anything that he did, but it's just a fact if you knew his backstory of how he was betrayed, lied to, all sorts of things. I'm not saying that everybody who's been betrayed is going to end up a serial killer. I'm not saying that at all. You know what I mean? But it's just a fact. It led to his demise. It really did. Do I believe he was psychiatrically ill? Before that, of course, he was. He was. But being lied to by so many people that he had trusted at one time and betrayed, it just got him into this real dark abyss, you know? And he just went deeper and deeper and deeper. And let me tell you, that narcissism, if somebody is a narcissist and they kill somebody one time, that narcissist part of him or her will come out and say, you did it one time and you got away with it. And you can do it another time and another time and another time and another time. But narcissistic people will also get bit by it in the ass at the very end because narcissism will lead them to be caught because they get too cocky, you know?
Yeah.
And he did murder of these women, but he did murder. You know what? I'm not even going to say. We'll wait that for the next story. Okay. Yeah. So we'll wait. And so there is some things, like I said, that have never been on TV, was never spoke about before, and it is quite fascinating of what he did. And
well, when are you free to come back on? Because you just gave us you keep on giving us these cliffhangers. So
I'm sorry.
we can get you back on. I have 2 weeks open.
Okay.
Will you be home?
Just let me know when you want me to come on, and I'm available to you, Shawn. Okay, and Brian.
Well, let us know when you're home and we have good internet, so our viewers can see you as you tell us these amazing stories. They can see it. 'Cause I know that when you tell these stories, you just people can probably see it so much more than just the words. So.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that so much. And like tomorrow night, I'm going to be at the Winchester House,
which is amazing.
So I'm looking forward to that. And it's going to be the last. It's going to be the last group allowed to come in and do an overnighter. And this was booked months in advance.
Wow.
But the one thing about it is we're not allowed to videotape anything. We're not. And so that's kind of a shame. But anyhow, I'm going to be there, and I read the backstory of Sarah Winchester, and let me tell you that most people think that she constructed the house because of confusing spirits.
Yeah.
No, that is far from the truth.
I thought that was like the big story of the house.
To nowhere, right? When you open the door, it just looks outside, right?
Yeah.
What had happened when she was building the house, there was an earthquake. It's in San Jose. They're going to have earthquakes, right?
Yeah.
Well, it destroyed part of the house, right? So the door was still there, and so she just left it. That part of the building was never rebuilt. And so that's why some of the steps go to nowhere. It has nothing to do with confusing spirits whatsoever. And also is that she only lived there for a period of time until she bought a new house. Now, nobody talks about the other house she bought. It's only this house.
True.
And so you're gonna hear these myths and these stories about her. And if you watch the different ghost shows on TV, they'll talk about, it was confusing spirits and all this crap and everything. No, that is far from truth. It is far from truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's an excellent story when you hear that. Oh, yeah, that's a spirit that she wanted to confuse the spirits and everything because she was scared. No. During her time, it was a time that people were tipping tables. They were doing science and the seances and such like that. They were reading tea leaves, cards, you name it. They were doing it. It was the right time to do those types of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that, to going there. I love the architecture of the house, all that wood, you know what I mean? It's just beautiful. I've driven by it many times. And so I will get to experience that Thursday night and Friday morning. And so I am looking forward to that so very, very much. It's not cheap. It's not being cheap by no means. It's not that I'm wealthy, but my cousin, he knows a team that is going in. They knew I was in town, and so they have invited me and my cousin to go. So anyhow, so I thought, you know what? I can't, I can't pass this up.
No, you can't.
No,
that's good.
So
you cannot pass that up. That's
no. And a couple of weeks ago, last weekend, 2 weeks ago, I was at the Valeska axe murder house in Valeska, Iowa.
I saw that picture.
And that was incredible in itself, very incredible. So I go to different places, and part of, when my bio is real long, people get, and whatever. But the things I have not mentioned in my bio is that I did a lot of internships at different state hospitals around the country. So we're talking 74, 75. And back then, these state hospitals were just prolific. So I went to 2 different state hospitals in Iowa. One of them was one of them was in Sheridan, Wyoming, and there was another one in Phoenix, Arizona. And also there was one that I went to in Oma, Louisiana. It was the only leper colony in the United States. And I went there to do an internship there.
Wow.
And so those are stories in itself too. But anyhow.
Well, we'll plan a time when you're home and we have and you have internet and people can see you, and I'm just so excited. Now with that, how can people find you if somebody wants your help or somebody wants to
or any questions at all? Please, my telephone number is 309-213-0325. Again, 309-213-0325. If anyone has any questions at all, if you don't remember my number, please contact Shawn, and Shawn can, relay the message to me. If you need any help, and again, I do readings. I don't do when it comes to a public reading, like I said, I don't go into real dark details. You know what I mean? And but if somebody needs help in any way, and let me tell you that my ego isn't that big that if it is way above me, I will refer a person to someone else that could help them. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not going to lead someone on to give them false hope, because that's not right. And a lot of our brothers and sisters out there, unfortunately, do that.
Yeah.
And that bothers me greatly. Also, sometime I would like to talk about how people become obsessed with EVPs and the people that I have helped to overcome that addiction. And it's incredible. It is that these people become so obsessed, so addicted to EVPs. Can
we talk about this for a second? I know we're getting now over time real quick, but because this is something that I've brought up and that I've thought about. You get obsessed, you kind of get hooked into doing the EVP sessions, and people with ITC devices, it's the same thing, right? They're using the radio to communicate.
Right.
What would you do or tell somebody to, like, what do they need to be careful for? What do they need to know to look out for so that people know to be cautious of this? Because I try explaining this to people just because of things that I've experienced, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people really take it seriously. So, doing the EVP sessions, doing ITC, and even dowsing rods or Ouija boards, because it's all communication with spirit, right? And so how would you, I don't know, could you just kind of elaborate a little bit more on that and the risks?
Yeah, I will. Several families have reached out to me, and I can say her first name. Her first name is Barbara. Her and her husband lived together for 60 years. They were best friends, raised a family. They were retired. When Barbara's husband died, she had heard of EVPs and all this stuff, right? So she got a machine. She got a little tape recorder and whatever. And anyhow, she began to communicate with who she thought was her husband through the EVPs, right? She became so obsessed with it, like the other ones that I've helped. There was about 4 of them, 4 folks that I've helped. And that she became so obsessed because she thought she was talking to her husband, right? And that she cut her children off. She stopped leaving the house. For several years, she stayed in her house and she communicated with the spirit world that way. And she was engrossed by it. She became obsessed with it. She was addicted to it. It became her life. It overtook her life. And her family was very, very upset. They were very, very worried about her. So they reached out to me. They heard me on a podcast. And so they reached out to me and they flew me, one of them. And Barbara was from California. and God rest her soul that she passed now. And so when I went to see her, and we talked on the telephone first, and I mean, she was so giddy about hearing these voices come over in this machine, right? And it was like a drink or a drug to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was so obsessed that she would go days sometimes without any sleep. And so then I contacted her, and we talked on the phone, and her family flew me out, and I was there with Barbara for 2 weeks. But trying to, it's what's, you know what, Shawn, it's like with any addiction, it's going to take time. Okay, she was grieving so much for her husband that she would do anything to communicate with him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so she saw the shows with the EVP, so she got the machine, and to try to make her understand that she was still alive and that she needed to be back with her family and her friends, play cards with the girls, that, you know, go out to lunch with the girls and stuff like that, be with her grandchildren. She did not see her grandchildren for several years because she refused to, because she had become friends with these spirits.
Wow.
She thought she was talking to her husband, and in fact that she wasn't at all whatsoever. And that's another story that is entangled in this mess too.
Well, yeah, that's tricky. You know, they want, sometimes that's what they do, right? And a lot of people don't realize the real risks that we get ourselves into, or maybe they know the risks, but they don't take them seriously enough. It's like somebody who goes rock climbing all the time. They do it all the time, so they may get sloppy because they're not, because they're used to doing it all the time. Like, oh, it's okay, right? So that's, I don't know. It's important that people keep all this in mind. That's why I wanted to bring this up real quick.
Then she went from the EVP to the Ouija board, and she found herself in a mess.
Yeah,
she did. And it got to be very, very dark. So here she was using the EVPs along with the witch board, with the Ouija board.
Yeah.
And that is not a good combination whatsoever.
Not at all.
But let me tell you, after 2 weeks with Barbara, now I'm not Annie Sullivan. You know what I mean? I can't save everyone. But it's just the fact that people reach out to me because I believe that God puts us where we need to be at any given time. And there's a reason why.
Yeah.
And so I got to help Barbara. And the last years of her life, that she threw away the EVP, she burned the witch board and whatever, and she embraced her children and grandchildren again. So the last years of her life were very, very fulfilling to her.
Good. That's good to hear.
But a lot of people, but there was another case of where the person committed suicide.
Yeah.
Because it was another female, and she wanted to be with the spirits on the other side that communicated with her, that really beckoned her. I mean, she got with some nasty spirits, and that she kept all these, and I heard these myself, Yeah. But it's such a strong addiction. It really is. Anybody who knows about alcoholism and drug addiction, and there's also food addiction and sex addiction, you name it, okay? And this addiction is so strong. It's so strong, and it's so menacing. It really, really is. And so there is probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people around the world that are addicted to the spirit world with EVPs and using other devices to communicate with the other side. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this equipment because they just can't get enough. They want more and more and more.
Right.
And to break that spell, as I would say, it's difficult at best. It is.
For sure. Here, real quick, Amber Simona, she's asking if we can post your phone number. Can you state your phone number one more time for the people that missed it, if you're okay with that?
Oh, very much. So everyone has my number. It's 309-213-0710. 0325. 309-213-0325.
Is it okay if I post it in the comments here?
Oh, please do. Oh, yes, please. Yeah, please do. If someone wants to reach out to me, please do. If they want to leave me a voicemail, I mean, that's fine. I'll get back to you within probably 24 hours or so. Okay. I do have another life besides the paranormal life, and we can talk about that some other time too, about how we need to balance.
Definitely.
We need a balance of, yes, life continues, but my entire life isn't the paranormal.
Right.
My entire life is serving others. Yes. My other life is going horseback riding. My other life is going snow skiing. My other life is going mountain climbing, even my age. You know what I mean? And so we have to find a balance, because if we become too consumed with the paranormal, it will lead us into a nasty, horrible place.
True.
It really will.
Yep.
It will, you know?
Yep. Very can. Yep. There's a lot of risks in what we do. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And with that, it's almost 11 o'clock here in Ohio. And I'm sure that you are hungry for dinner out there in California. So,
yes, I am. I am. I'm going to have yogurt and muffins tonight.
Oh.
Have yogurt and muffins. That's all I'm hungry for. After I do, you know what? After I do a podcast, I'm drained.
Yeah.
And if I'm eating something light, I'm going to walk along the beach. I'm going to be doing that also. And just to get in touch with my spirit, listen to the waves and just let it go, ebb and flow, and just let everything that I talked about, just let it go out to the ocean.
Let it go out to the ocean.
Yes.
I wish I was out by the ocean. Especially the Pacific Ocean.
So I want to say I just need to say hi to Sky again, and thank you for listening, Sky. Love you, honey. Also to my friend Michelle, and that's another story. Michelle lives in Ohio, and a wonderful person, and how I helped her over the grieving that went into mourning that kept her son Ryan earthbound. And that is an incredible journey that she went on, and I was there to help her do that. And also Life 101, Paranormal 101 education. And I know, Shawn, that you're part of that group too, right?
The Paranormal 101 Facebook page?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay. And so Mike Cardenas and the group from, San Antonio, the Paranormal Midnight Society, wonderful group of folks, really. And like with Ken Allen, Wizard's Table, great guy also. Every podcast has its own platform. Mm-hmm. And that every platform and every podcast I've been on, I have felt very, very welcomed. And so I appreciate that so very, very much. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Brian. I could talk probably until the cows come home. And but anyhow, I know it's getting late, and on the East Coast, and I'm going to get some muffins, and I'm going to go to the ocean and walk, because the moon is beautiful tonight.
Oh,
it is beautiful.
I bet it is, especially over that Pacific Ocean right now. So
go enjoy.
So, thank you so much.
Again, 309-213-0325, or send me a friend request. And but anyhow, thank you again. And I always say at the very end is that always remember that we are spiritual beings in a physical body. And I wish everyone a most blessed night, and also love, light, and peace to everyone. And always remember, my paranormal brothers and sisters, to love yourself so you can love someone else. Thank you, Shawn.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Robert.
Love and light to you too.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Almost.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Real quick, I saw Erin posted that she has COVID pneumonia right now. So prayers to you, Erin.
Yes.
Everybody, thank you so much. Again, I say this at the end of a lot of shows. Guys, there's so much crazy energy out there right now. We have the ability to change the flow of this energy. So let's send out positive energy, light and love, and let's just spread it. Everybody, with that, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that we helped you over this hump day and help you slide on into the weekend. Everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless everyone.
Thank you, everyone. This paranormal adventure that we're all on, it connects us. This is our paranormal community. This is our paranormal podcast with your host, Shawn Gilmore.
He's worked in the paranormal field for 10 years.
He was featured on the TV show Paranormal Survivor that airs on Travel Channel.
His passion is creating para-unity.
With your host, Brian Mersel.
He's worked in the paranormal field for 7 years.
He leads his own paranormal team.
He wants to help people start their paranormal adventure or grow their existing one. This is our paranormal adventure. This is our paranormal community. This is our paranormal podcast.
It's about supporting. It's about making para-unity a real thing, because we all need to support each other within our community. And that's what the show has always been about.